Psalms 119 and verse 4 reads, "Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently." For clarification, the word precepts is referring to God's written word. The word diligently means with strength or endurance. The psalmist pens, "God, you have commanded us to keep your word with all of our strength." Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5 reads, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." The word might here refers to being diligent. In Mark chapter 12, verses 30 and 31, Jesus commanded, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength." This is the first commandment. The second is this: you shall love your neighbors yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Jesus said we're to obey with all your strength, meaning diligence. These commandments are not suggestions for our consideration. God's word is not a menu where we pick to obey what we like. We are to obey God's word fully and completely. Follow me. Partial obedience is complete disobedience. A good example of obeying the commands of God with diligence is the story in the Bible of Hosea, who was a prophet of God. He had been called upon by God to marry a prostitute. Her name was Gomer. Out of their union, she gave birth to 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Throughout Hosea and Gomer's marriage, she would return to her old life of unfaithfulness by returning to her old lovers in prostitution. This was a repeated behavior for her. Yet God chose to use Hosea and Gomer's marriage to illustrate his people's spiritual condition and of unfaithfulness to him, and yet reveal the depth of his love for them. Gomer had been unfaithful to Hosea by choosing to run into the arms of another man. Israel had been unfaithful to God by choosing to worship idols. God viewed his relationship with his people Israel as a marriage, but they had violated their relationship with him by worshiping idols, and in this case, the idol Baal. Hosea chapter 1 and verse 2, God spoke to Hosea and said, "Go take unto thee a woman." Hosea chapter 3 and verse 1, God said again to Hosea, "Go yet, love a woman." Hosea was obedient in both of these commands. Go take was his obedience out of faithfulness. Go yet was his obedience out of love. Sometimes we obey the Lord out of faithfulness to his command. It's not that we don't love him, but what he requires of us is performed out of faithfulness because it's the right thing to do. We obey, but there's no passion. We obey, but there's no true love for what we've been asked to do. Some would say, well, there's no need to obey unless there's feeling. But that isn't obeying with diligence. There have been many times I've had to forgive someone who's offended me, wronged me, or hurt me, and yet it was the right thing to do, the biblical thing to do, even though my feelings did not want to. If I was to wait for the right feeling to obey the Lord, I'd still be living in disobedience and rebellion to what God required of me. You see, obedience should not follow our feelings. It's when you do what's right that right feelings will eventually follow. Let me say that again. Doing what's right and right feelings will eventually follow. God told Hosea, "Go yet and love." This second call to obedience was performed out of love, passion, desire. He had taken Gomer to wife out of being faithful to the will of God, but in his second command, he went and took Gomer again, who had left him for her old lovers, but this time he took her out of love. When our obedience to God's commands is carried out because of a love to do what we've been commanded, passion becomes the driving force. That's why we're to obey God's commands with diligence. Romans chapter 6 verse 17 states, "God be thanked that you were the servants of sin, but you've obeyed from the heart. 1 John chapter 5 verse 3 says, "For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome." God's commandments become burdensome when we refuse to obey from our heart. Matthew chapter 7 verse 21, Jesus gave us a sobering warning. "Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven." You see, the strength we give to being diligent in our obedience to the word of the Lord will, number one, strengthen our souls. Number two, keep our hearts sensitive to the will of God. Number three, nurture our love for God. Until next time, keep walking in the Word.